And so we are in this adventure of discovering the wholeness of what we are and the truth about what this life is. Discovering that there is only one substance, one essence, one grace, one glory. And that all the ways of dividing are of the mind's protection. That the play of the world is exactly that, a play of the world. The mind is creating the appearance on a screen. And the true reality is untouched by anything that is appearing on the screen. In a way, the non-dual revelation is the revelation of life mastery, right? The ability to be free in life. The non-dual revelation is not about escaping from life. We don't even have to question escaping from the world, because there's a knowing that the world is of the mind, right? So when there is a seeing of how the mind is creating images on a screen, we don't need to be concerned with trying to work out the world. We just receive the graced invitation to discover the truth of who we are. We've heard this in many of the great teachings of there is only the self. You are the self, the one self. Discover the truth of who you are and you will be free. And there's a way that this resonates in the heart, because the heart is who I am and the heart is not personal. And in a way, it's to follow the resonance of the heart that recognizes something that is beyond understanding. It feels so important in this adventure of life not to blindly follow anything, not to believe anything, not to add to our big basket of concepts and ideas, but to truly digest the moment through presence, through pause, through quietness, through reflection and contemplation, in order to come to a degree of mastery of life where we're not putting the master outside of us, that we are realizing that mastery is life's natural function, that life knows how to live life, right? Life is intelligence, and we are that intelligence. So there's nothing to learn here. There's nothing to learn or to even understand. It's all about the resonance. It's all about the frequency. And we can also say that it's a kind of given that the mind will follow and track, and the mind will conceptualize, and the mind will come into questioning of itself, criticism of itself. It will make lists of where I'm not meeting the mark and what I need to do better and how I need to try harder, right? The mind will do those things, because if we come to realize that's kind of what the mind does, is that it's trying to protect itself. The me and the mind, the one that feels to be divided, in that felt sense of being divided from God and glory, in the sense of being divided from love, of course there's going to be a feeling of some kind of discord, right? And we could say that the discord is actually leading us back to the revelation that we are one with God. The discord isn't here for us to feel like we're failing in life, that we've made a mistake, that we're a hopeless case, that we have no power. The discord is it's like the breadcrumbs on the path, back to the mystical revelation, back to the grace and glory of the true non-dual revelation. And that the non-dual revelation is the revelation of wholeness. It's the revelation of the glory in the heart. It's mastery of life. It brings us to a freedom in life where we can live this experience. And we're not looking to live this experience without any little quirks, but it allows us to be with what arises in life without capsizing into a sense of division, into the self-criticism, self-hatred, self-loathing, self-judgment, and the deeply held belief in unworthiness and division from God, from love, a belief in being divided from love. So in a way, when we speak about identity, as we have been, we're speaking about identification with the person, identification with the mind, identification with division, with separation. So we also hear in the great teachings that it's all an illusion. See through the illusion, right? And we can, of course, through the mind, deeply misinterpret these great teachings. And if we are looking to protect ourselves, and we will use the great teachings as a means to protect ourselves, oh, what that means is, like, hide from the world, get away from the world, don't engage. It's all an illusion. There's nothing here, just empty space. But if that isn't known all the way through, if it's not an actual direct experience, a concept will never set us free, right? And so the lived experience, the feeling of your nervous system, the triggers, the charges, the aliveness, and how we move with that is this trail of breadcrumbs that are leading us back to the glory of the one heart in our lived experience. It's so true genius, right? The wisdom, the intelligence. And in a way, it's about the relaxation of the intellect, the mind, the need to understand the ways that the habits of the mind to constantly be analyzing and evaluating and trying to process according to the me, when actually the simple revelation of where your true identity is freedom, right? The mind can make this adventure so complicated, but we don't actually need to know how, because life knows how. All that we are being invited is to discover the true non-dual revelation, that we are one with God. And yes, we could say, well, we are a child of God. But in a way, that oneness with God is that our lived experience is as a child of God, but we are one with God. There is only God and glory, right? There's no division, there's no separation. What God is what you are. What God is what we are. What God is what life is. What God is this moment in its entirety, in its fullness. There's no mistake here. There's nothing out of place. And in a way, mastery, freedom, is the ability to be present with and to what is here without moving to the mind's habits And so what are the mind's habits, right? The mind thinks, it projects, it blames, it criticizes itself and shuts itself down into a sense of a protection that is divided, like an inferior ego complex in many, many ways, so many nuances. It can enter into like a superior ego complex where I'm better or I know, which is connected to that deep need to be seen. In the worldly sense, we might call it like fame or success or achievement. It's so subtle the ways that we move in the world. And it's all rooted as well in, this mind sense, this ego sense. It wants to belong. But the curious thing is that it wants to belong to what is not real. And so if our energy is going towards wanting to belong to what is not real, of course we're going to be disappointed. It wants to be connected to people and things and relational dynamics and success and financial, let's say, wealth, stability. It wants these things because that will make me feel safe. So we could say the ego complex, the sense of the me, is always seeking for safety. It's always it's making everything circle around me. The world revolves around me. It's all about me, right? And that's a great protection. It's innocent, right? It's not bad, it's not wrong. But that complex playing out keeps us believing that we're divided from God. It doesn't keep us divided from God. It gives a belief that gives a lived experience, because I'm believing that I'm divided from God. So that belief then is powerful, because then the lived experience follows that belief. Like, I am divided from God. I am not worthy. I am lacking. There's scarcity. There's not enough. There's not enough nourishment. There's not enough love. So the web of those tendrils of the mind are going outward, trying to entangle itself in dynamics, worldly dynamics, that will give me a sense of belonging, being seen, feeling safe, right? And it will rest inside us as a feeling sense that we could say might feel like a darkness or a heaviness or like an offness or a discontent, right? It will be felt because it's discordant frequency. It's not the flow of life, right? When we're in the flow of life, when we're in the wide open spaciousness, there's none of that. And there's no story, right? So in a way, we illuminate all of the ways that the mind operates and creates a world, all of the ways that we experience life as a human in division, we could say, believing in division. We illuminate it not because it's real and true on a certain extent, to a certain extent, but because the lived experience feels very real. And to illuminate it allows us to bring a focus and a precision to our feeling sense of meeting the energies as they come. But ultimately, the simple pointing that we know as the timeless instruction to know yourself, to discover your true identity. So we could say there can be many ways that we have openings to recognize I am the unbounded, infinite, omnipresent reality. I am the stillness. I am the silence. I am just being. the I am simple existence, the pure awareness that is just here, aware of itself, awake to itself, and aware and awake of all that is moving and changing, and yet never ever disturbed by the moving, changing, never capsized, never taken out, always whole, always true. Right. So hear the revelation, hear the awake field, hear the freedom. And so often there's the question of, oh, when I'm here, I feel very free. But then when I'm in the world, I forget about this, or I feel disconnected from this. Let's clear this up. Right? We can never be disconnected from this. Never. Can you feel that? Can you find the knowing that this can never go anywhere? This presence field, this being that you are, this aliveness of life, this silence, this stillness, this true peace can never go anywhere. And yet the function of the mind can be focused upon. And when the function of the mind is focused upon, the world appears, right? So it's not a case of, oh, when I go into the world, I forget. It's that when I move to the habit to identify with the mind, the world appears. And when the world appears, there's a conditioned habit to identify and swirl in the stories of the mind that is creating the appearance of the world on the screen. So in a way, we don't go into the world. We focus upon the mind, right? And so as these words are coming, there's no instruction here. It's a resonant transmission of intelligence just flowing, and it's arising, appearing as words, because that's the way the grace is wanting to move right now, as an invitation for alignment, attunement, and your own natural revelation, your own natural discovery, resonant remembrance, restoration of the divine frequency of the heart in your heart, so that the sense of division and being away from God and glory can be restored in the direct experience. If the mind is given bandwidth, airtime, the mind will take it up, it will fill it up with the story, it will fill it up with process, it will fill it up with trying to fix things, change things. Now there's different kind of layers and like flows of maturing and refining in this, in the evolution of human consciousness, in the evolution of consciousness. And so at different times in this adventure, we will see things differently, and we will need different pointers and different let's say frequencies to enliven and support exactly where we are uniquely in this unfolding. And of course, the intelligence has got this covered. So life itself is the way. Life itself is offering us a reflection of our own consciousness and where we are in this unfolding, and is giving us what is optimum, let's say, as a possibility for deepening and refinement. It is to never lose sight of the true vision. It is to not lose sight of where the true identity is, because it is in the presence of yourself as the field of being that the transmutation and refinements of the nervous system and therefore the life experience actually happen. So if we are without the grace and guidance of the frequency in our field of being, we will cycle. Like if this is not here, this sense of being, the sense of the wideness, the sense of knowing, then the mind itself will just keep cycling. And it will be in the frequency process of trying to fix and change, trying to work it out, trying to get the insight, trying to see, using the kind of story and the history, the past, trying to kind of piece it together, because the mind loves to like just be in that process with itself. It loves to try to work it out. It's like it kind of loves to follow the dangling carrot but never quite get it, right? It'll be like, there now, there's another thing come in. But ultimately, all of this processing can be like the ultimate distraction that's actually just our fear of being real, a fear of letting go of the familiar, letting go of the suffering, letting go of the mind's habit to just keep identifying with itself. It's so frustrating to the mind to not be able to master this in a way of learning it, getting it, having it down, right? It's so frustrating to the mind, and the mind will just keep trying to bring this revelation back into the me and the play of the world and the life. It will keep telling its story of how powerless it is. And it will also keep telling its story of, well, the mind loves to do this. The mind loves to say, well, the mind does this, the mind does that. The mind doesn't want to do that, right? Have you noticed that, how the mind loves to tell its story of, well, the mind doesn't want to hear that actually, and the mind wants this. And it's like, okay, so can you find a deeper sense that's longing for freedom, that's willing to stop telling the story of the mind's narrative about itself, right? There can be a lot of a play of a kind of fear of bypassing, a fear of transcending. But as I often say, the transcendent field is our true nature. So we have to let go of the mind's misinterpretations that the transcendent is somehow a bypass. Because in a way, all of the mind's ideas around that can also be part of the fear of actually living awake, living this reality, right? So when we are deeply present to life and we're not taking in kind of spiritual sound bites and believing them, letting our fear associate, and we're actually receiving the graced invitation to an autonomy and a very deeply engaged participatory adventure in your own life. It's really speaking of, the unexamined life would sometimes be spoken of, unquestioned life. Now, of course, we're all examining and we're all questioning, right? Of course we are. We wouldn't be here if we weren't. And yet, let's always be open to a more and more subtle vigilance in the places where we feel hooked, the places where we feel stuck, the places where we find ongoing discordance. These are the breadcrumbs. These are not the failures. These are not the mistakes. These are not kind of outside of the possibility or insurmountable. Not at all. Everything is an invitation. Everything is an invitation to come to a deepening presence with what is arising, to truly feel the energy, the aliveness, the surges of what happens in the nervous system, and to be with the nervous system in a way that the presence, the love, and the care of being with the nervous system that is experiencing some kind of discordance, it brings the love, the receptivity, the welcoming, the care that these really tender parts of us need. And whilst we might say that, the mind is creating the images, the world, like the feelings are real, and the feelings are where the shifting and changing happens. We can't change the life and the lived experience moving from action alone, like the fixing, changing action. We can't change at the same frequency that the discordance was created. It's like we need the finer frequency. We need the expansion and to be in the knowing of the true identity. On a certain level, of course, there's nothing to do. And yet we're not being asked to kind of abandon life, the lived experience. No, we're being invited to be fully engaged, fully participating in life, but as a frequency of life living itself. And really what that is inviting is that everything that feels discordant, every time that the nervous system is enlivened in a way that feels like discomfort or emotional, that we're using the opportunity to feel and allow a deepening to happen. It's like we're following the breadcrumbs back to the revelation of the one heart. Yeah. when the world seems to be chaotic, and of course that screen of the mind's creation, we could say, well, why are we then having a shared experience of a collective world that seems to be chaotic? And that is because, of course, there's one mind, but we are entangled in the human condition in the same ways, right? So yes, there's unique configurations, but the human condition, it's the same stuff playing out. And so it creates a world picture where we can in a way experience overlaps and crossovers. And yet we can also be experiencing the images on the screen very differently in different frequencies. Everyone is having a unique experience of the play of the world, right? And that's why we speak of however that unique experience touches you, affects you, stirs you, bring it in. Be with your nervous system in it. And know that your unique lived experience is where the juice is. So that's where we might say the talking about it on the level of collaborating with fear isn't really useful. Taking sides is not useful. Anything that divides or collaborates with division isn't useful. It's not useful to our own freedom, and it's not useful to the evolution of human consciousness, right? So there are so many ways that the mind just could never believe. In a way, we could say the simplicity of what it is to live this life in reality. And yet, as the words come and the invitations come, it's to collaborate with love, collaborate with the one heart, be with your nervous system, be the awake field of awareness that's watching, and to really explore your own lived experience. We could say, come to the autonomous connection to Source. Refine the ability to listen deeply to the intuitive knowing so that you really recognize the yes and the no, and how the movement of life is moving in its own grace instead of moving from protection, right? So we're always speaking of the non-dual revelation, the revelation of the one. Yeah. And so it's for us to find in our own heart the sense of what feels true, what resonates, what brings us alive. That's beyond understanding or making sense, but it's like a resonant recognition. What feels inspiring, what feels enlivening, what feels igniting, what feels like truth. How does it feel to land in a sense of a knowing that is beyond reason? And then realize that you don't need to reason with the world about your revelation. You don't need permission from anything external about your revelation. You don't need to belong, you don't need to fit in. Because in the belonging, in the fitting in with God and glory, then those protective mechanisms are seen through. And in a way, this is what would make us be able to step into what we might call like a prophetic vision, like a vision of what our heart knows that we're truly here for. Like God's vision for humanity and the part that we're here to play, the Dharma, the true purpose of life. What is it to do God's work, right? What is it to live as a frequency expression, as an emissary of light, as an emanation of love? And how are we each uniquely being called? And can we hold that frequency of the true vision that already knows that wholeness is here? What is it to rest in that clear vision, even when discordance comes in? Because when we can rest in that vision, when discordance comes in, it allows a powerful transmutation and reorganization and a reorientation out of cause and effect, past and future, karmic frequency resonance and entanglement with the collective on the level of karma. Or we could say entanglement with the collective on the level of the unconscious fear, right? How can we be collaborating with the frequency of love, the truth of our heart, and then engaging with the lived experience from here and allowing the untangling, the transmutation to happen? Because we're holding a vision that in a way God and glory is already glorious. The victory is already won, right? We're not here to win for the divine. The divine, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, victory to the light. It's already done, right? The divine light is already victorious. And in a way, we're being invited to align with that victory and stop aligning with the battle. We're being invited to align with the victory, with the clear divine vision that our heart knows. And then, great glory, how may I serve you today? What is the best use of this vehicle for your divine purpose, to bring light to the surface of life? That the divine just wants to live through the humans, wants to come alive on the surface of life for the evolution of human consciousness to be living at the frequency of divine reality, in the frequency of love. So when we move out of the posture of how may I serve my mind, how may this mastery of mind trying to fix and change itself and make itself better and more successful and more this and that and the other, when we move out of the posture of bowing to the mind and bowing to the powerlessness, and we start bowing to our own divine revelation, bowing to the connection to source, being resourced from source, following the intuitive knowing as life living itself, that we find the grace and the glory to be living this victory, living this revelation, so that we are then a frequency emissary of love, of wholeness, of reassurance in these seemingly turbulent times. That we're not so much collaborating with the fear and the turbulence, but we're meeting the fear and turbulence in our own system, so that we can settle out what distracts us, what pulls us away, what capsizes us, so that we can continue to evolve into more buoyant beacons of light on the surface of life. Evolve into greater frequency transmissions as emanations and embodiments of love. So wherever we are, infusing in love and light frequency, and our nervous system is being infused and aligned and attuned, whether it's when we are gathering here, whether it's when we are sitting, when we're in nature, if we're singing bhajans, if we're in a great conversation, if we're in the creative flow, whatever it is that feeds that flow of divine nourishment and living in the flow of abundance, whatever it is that feeds us and reminds us of our true identity. Because ultimately, the great revelation of our identity in God is the only thing that really matters, that there is one self. Know thyself. Know the truth of yourself, and all else will fall into place. Nothing more is needed to be known except that truth. And in a way, this is the awakening of consciousness to itself on the level of consciousness that shifts. It's not a human experience. It's not an experience for the mind. But in the revelation of consciousness that shifts the nervous system, shifts the consciousness to be flowing as an infinite, unbounded, eternal flow, then the mind follows. The consciousness of the mind follows. The consciousness of the mind discovers itself as being pure awareness, pure intelligence, right? The mind follows, the body follows. There's much more that we could say, but let us pause here. Let us pause here and just notice what is alive in your heart. What are you noticing? What is brought alive? Mm-hmm. And let's just say that when we speak of the mind not being the master and kind of overcoming that habit to move to the conditioning of the mind, we're not negating the mind consciousness and the fact that we think and we express. This is creative intelligence, right? There's a way, yes, that we're speaking of coming to the stillness, the silence, where the mind is quiet. But when we're referencing the mind in this way, we're referencing the habitual thought patterns that divide, protect, seek safety and belonging, right? Because the mind can also go into these kind of then ideas of like, well, I'm not allowed to think, and the mind was just thinking. It's quite comical. The things that the mind thinks and tells itself. And when we can observe as awareness with a smile about the innocence and the sweetness, but we can also recognize that the mind is a useful tool. I love thinking. We're allowed to think and use that creative intelligence to follow the creative intelligence. But just to notice that it's all rooted in this wide open space. Like there can be thinking it's not personal thinking, but what we're speaking of here all depends upon knowing that oneself, right? So again, we come to the sense of the revelation of know thyself. We know that oneself when we're resting in the being. None of the other particulars that we think we need to understand actually matter, because the intelligence itself knows, and everything just falls into place.